everyone. So in this video we'll do the analysis of UPSC essay paper 2023 that has been conducted recently. I will walk you through the topics and I will tell you what are the things you could have written in this particular paper. As expected, almost all the questions or topics were philosophical in nature, but at the same time there is a very undercurrent is there. If you understand the core of the topic, you will be able to manage this paper pretty well. Let's begin. Thinking is like a game. It does not begin unless there is an opposite team. I want you to understand two critical words. One is thinking, second is opposite team. That means team 1, team 2, right? Let's take a mathematical approach to this philosophical essay. So team 1, team 2 is there. So team 1 is essentially mankind. Why? Because man is the thinking being over here, and all our thinking, if you look at the core of the topic, it tells us that the thinking of mankind is essentially reactive. So it tells us that we think as a reaction. Our thinking is essentially reaction to certain external stimuli. The stimuli can be anything. So here team 1 will be the man always, team 2 will keep changing the parameters and accordingly will write the essay. Now you might have heard about a very famous philosopher belonging to Europe, René Descartes. He gave a very famous line, I think therefore I am. See, this is a very interesting line and a very famous line. Seems very a simplistic line. There is a Latin word for it, that is cogito ergo sum, which means I think therefore I am. Why he said that and what made him to say that, that is the most interesting aspect you can establish in this particular essay. So I am drawing upon the knowledge of world history to try and go for a introduction that will be pretty much all about it. So here we can talk about Europe in the 14th 15th century. Essentially that point of time the whole of Europe was under papal authority. Papal authority means the Pope used to dictate the social, political, economic and religious life of the Europeans. That means this point of time, if even if a man had some kind of curiosity, even if mankind wanted to understand whether the sun revolves around the earth or the earth revolves around the sun, or how the universe was created, this kind of the questions that keeps us bothering as a species. Whenever we wanted to find an answer, the church or the papal authority gave the answer to these things. That means there was no avenue for critical thinking. If you are a person who liked critical thinking, wanted to apply your faculty of logic and reason, then most of the time you are imprisoned or maybe you are punished. So critical thinking and reason was absent, logic was absent. Scientific temper was missing in the European society because of the predominance of the papal authority. So that's why historians call it the dark age. Now to this particular socio-cultural, religious and political milieu, we see a lot of philosophers will come to stage who will inspire the fellow men to ask questions, to have doubts. They will essentially ask people to find reasons, to apply their faculty of critical thinking and logic. So they will inspire the whole generation who will start questioning the papal authority, and that's how they overthrow the papal authority eventually. So that example you can give here. Now the third process, the philosophers like Kant, Rousseau, René Descartes, a lot of philosophers, we call them the Renaissance philosophers. So these philosophers, their body of work or language or philosophy is essentially a reaction to the particular socio-culture and political milieu, or we can say in a single word, papal authority and its dominance. So this point of time the philosophers and their thought process was a reaction to the existing norm or the papal authority that is established. Now we can apply. So here we prove that the thinking of human beings is essentially reactive in nature. It is reacting to a particular a set of things that it does not like, or it does not want to be associated with. The same thing we can apply in Indian context as well. If you look at Buddhism or Jainism or rise of any that kind of Shramanic tradition. Okay. We have Brahmin tradition, or what we call Hinduism today. Against that, against the orthodoxy of Hinduism, we see the rise of Buddhism, Jainism, etc. Again, that was the whatever Buddha, Jain they propounded, that was a reaction to the orthodoxy of Brahminism. Again, this thought process, or the ideology that they have propagated, reactive thinking. That way we can prove that the thinking is essentially by and large is reactive. Now, why does a human being thinks? Why does a society thinks? Why does the government thinks? And this opposing team, I told you, right? T1 and T versus team. T1 is always the mankind. T2 can be multiple things. It can be society, culture, religion, etc. Okay. And here, if you see over here, we can take one example. Say opposite team, we can equate this with necessity or adversity. Why does a human being is pushed to think and come up with something new? Because he is faced with a overwhelming necessity, or there is overwhelming adversity. These are the two most important things that gives rise to what we call innovation. And innovation is nothing but germinates from thought, thinking or thought. Somebody thought that there can be an aeroplane, so there is an aeroplane today. So that's why. Okay. So necessity and adversity is again, they are against the human being acting as team 2, and because of that human beings are pushed to think how to overcome this necessity or how to overcome this adversity. So that we can think of. Same thing we can talk about over here. We can also add, say, man versus nature, or we can say disaster. That is another dimension. See, when there is a disaster, all our disaster preparedness, etc., is essentially reactive. Let me give an example. Say in Odisha, we had a super cyclone in 1999, and remember that Odisha, after the super cyclone and after losing 10,000 men and women, went ahead and thought that we need to have a specialized authority to tackle the disaster that the state is facing. So Odisha is the first state in whole of India to create a disaster management authority and disaster response force, first in India. Why we have gone for a disaster management authority and disaster response force? Because we were facing a overwhelming adversity, and our that point of time, whatever the architecture, disaster management architecture was there, it was very generic. We needed a specialized agency. That is the reason why it became the first state to do so. Also, it is the first state to introduce something called climate budget. Now this over here, after the disaster, what happened exactly? Here the government is thinking. Government took a pause, thought how to overcome this disaster, how we can have zero casualty. That is the reason why they went ahead and created this. If you look at our national disaster management architecture, we had National Disaster Management Authority, which was created around 2001, and Disaster Management Act came in 2005. Okay. So Odisha was much ahead of its in all over India. It was much ahead of any other state. Even the national law came after the state law. So that you have to keep in mind. And this is again this whole idea of creating a authority, creating a force is again a reactive thinking. We are reacting to the overwhelming disasters and the loss of life that we have endured during this cyclone. And after this, what was a reactive thought essentially is helping us prevent further loss of life. Till now we have managed so many disasters without without any much casualty. In fact, Odisha has a policy of zero casualty. That because the government took a pause and thought about it, and that thought or thinking was reactive in nature. Okay. So if I want to sum it up, say when a man thinks, when I say man, it invariably means woman as well. When a man thinks, he creates theory or he goes for innovation, some kind of innovation. When a society thinks, क्या होता है? Whenever we find out that the society is thinking, we most of the, if you look at history, most of the time we will come across revolution. And when a state meaning government thinks, we find resolution of all kinds of crises. Primary objective of governance is crisis resolution. So when a man thinks, we find innovation. When the society thinks, we find revolution. And when the state thinks, we find resolution. This way you can give multiple examples. Even if you say, you can talk about Karl Marx and his idea of communism, that was again a reactive or a reaction or reactive thinking to the capitalistic society and the setup of capitalistic society. So Karl Marx was reacting to the capitalistic norms and criticizing them. So that is a reactive thinking. That way you can establish the answers. Okay. Another example can be, we can find in the nuclear arms race. That example also we can see how reactive thinking is at play. For example, Germany created, it wanted to dominate the whole world and created the atomic bomb. Now, by knowing that USA went ahead and created the atomic bomb, then it is a reaction by a nation. So, the thinking I am applying to an individual level, societal level and a national level. Okay, that way we are thinking over here. So, the country reacted to it and it has created the atomic bomb, and when it dropped the atomic bomb on Japan, Russia didn't know about it, even though he was, Russia was with USA and was fighting against Germany. So Russia went ahead and created its own atomic bomb. When Russia created, then we see China also created its own atomic bomb, and Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai in 1962. After 1962 war, Hindi Chini nahi ho gaya. After that, what happened? We know that India became skeptical as a nation. We reacted because China as a neighbor had a nuclear bomb, so we had to have one. So India created its nuclear or atomic bomb. If India has a nuclear bomb, obviously Pakistan will has to have a atomic bomb. So Pakistan ka policy you might be knowing. It is known as BBS, beg, borrow, steal. Its nuclear program has 3 elements: beg, borrow and steal. Okay. Their president also that point of time gave a statement saying that हम खाएंगे नहीं and will be in the ruins, but हम बम बना के रहेंगे. And we know कि they went through all that to create a nuclear bomb or atomic bomb. So this is whole. The nations are reacting, isn't it? This is all reactive thinking. Somebody did something and there is a whole chain of reaction. That also you can establish over here, how a nation thinks. Okay. You can give example of Russia-Ukraine war and NATO expansion, and you can establish the idea of reactive thinking, that how thinking of a nation is essentially reactive in nature. Okay. that you can do. Now, if you see creation of United Nations, okay, why United Nations was created? Creation of United Nations. United Nations was created because there cannot be, or there should not be, World War III, right? So again, it was the creation of UN was a reaction to the horrors of World War II. The whole thought process behind creating UN is that it is a reactive thinking. So that way you can establish that much of the individual or society or nation, their thinking is essentially reactive, and that's what the essay is asking you to prove. Nonetheless, sometimes see, by and large thinking is reactive, that we can establish, but add a critical element saying that that critical element is that sometimes scientists or innovators or individuals, they think just as a pursuit of science or knowledge or innovation. For example, Darwin, when he gave the theory of survival of the fittest, he was exploring, he was not reacting to something, or many other things are there where we can establish that thinking not necessarily has to be reactive, but by and large thinking has been reactive. That's what the crux of the essay. Let's move on to the topic 2. This is a very interesting topic. Visionary decision making happens at the intersection of intuition and logic. See, here two things are there. You have to find out visionary decisions, and you have to prove why they are great and how they are great. To do that, you have to provide what was the logic behind that decision, and how it was a decision that was taken on the basis of logic as well as intuition. Let me give some examples. First, we can talk about Gandhi. Once Gandhi landed in India, he participated in multiple movements, but he could not connect with the masses. It was localized movements. So there was always a thought process going on in Gandhi's mind to connect with the masses. He always wanted a mass movement, and how to connect connect the masses with the movement. Okay, how to explain the bigger idea of nationalism to an average farmer living in the remotest part of India. How to explain that to him? He was always baffled by this particular question. So eventually he will take a pause, and over time he will try to understand the common man and try to find a commonality that will connect all Indians irrespective of caste, class, place, or any other region. Okay, he come up with the idea of salt satyagraha. Okay, why salt? See, Gandhi will think for couple of days. He could not find how to symbolize this movement. So he knows that salt is something that is used by everyone. Every household in India uses salt, and everyone is unhappy with the salt tax and the excessive salt tax and the high rates of salt, and common people could not mine it as well. So he will pick up the salt. That becomes a symbol, and the common man living in the remotest part of the country or average man can understand what Gandhi is essentially doing. He can now understand what is the meaning of nationalism, and that's why it is one of the greatest decision by Gandhi. Why? Because it was visionary. He took it as an intuition, he applied the logic in order to make it a mass movement, and eventually we know that it was a very fruitful movement. So salt satyagraha, obviously salt is restricted to the coastal area, but people understood the whole idea, concept. So in forest area we saw forest satyagraha, and there has been a cascading effect of this kind of movement. So that's why it was one of the finest decision by Gandhi. Also, another aspect of or another way Gandhi led the Indian movement for independence, you can establish that his strategy of you might have read in your modern India, struggle, truce, struggle. Okay. He used to mount a revolution or mount a movement, create a pressure on the British Empire, and then obviously after creating the pressure, British Empire will come to the table. Then there will be negotiation. Some of them will be agreed, some of them will not be agreed. Then Gandhi will withdraw the movement. Then again he will again raise some other concerns, and again another movement will be there. So STS or struggles to struggle was the strategy of Gandhi. Also there were other leaders who took non-violent means to fight the British. That is also true. But Gandhi was a realist. He knew that if I want to involve the mass, it has to be non-violent. Otherwise, the mass will not be involved in this, in this movement. First, second, if he chooses violence as his method of, protest, British Empire will have all the it has all the capability, and it will have all the necessity things to repress these movements, and it will in the fight of morality, British Empire will be moral in this aspect because it was suppressing a violent movement. That was second. Third and most important part is, even if you want to mount a violent protest against the British Empire, neither we had the arms, nor had the ammunitions, nor the money, nor the training, nothing. So how do you ask the common people to live up their day-to-day work and come and sacrifice their lives at a massive scale? That was not possible. So that is the reason why Gandhi will take non-violence as a method to symbolize the India's struggle for independence. That is one of the visionary decision by Gandhi. Similar things we can find in Mandela's decision as well. See, we all know how Mandela became the president of South Africa after spending 29 years in jail. That is not the visionary leadership. The visionary leadership is specifically comes after Mandela becomes the president. See how, if you look Mandela's decisions clearly after he becomes president, although he fought against the so-called whites for power, for equality, etc., he never kicked away this group of people, the bureaucrats, etc., once he occupies the office. See, he was leading the so-called black people against the white people, and once he was in power, it was natural for his followers to kick the white people, so-called white people, away from the offices, bureaucracy, etc. But Mandela was a visionary leader in the sense that he didn't kick any of the white people away from the offices because he knew that the people who are leading, who were with him, the so-called black people, they were good at organizing, doing protest, but they didn't have any knowledge of running the government or to have a functioning economy and functional government. So once he becomes president, he took a very realistic approach, understanding that he had to make the governance functional, otherwise all his hard work will go down the drain and there will be nothing left to show for. That is the reason why he took he didn't take the racial line, he didn't discriminate others. Although he was discriminated by the so-called whites, he didn't discriminate them at all, and he opened up his economy and went ahead across the globe to find funds so that South Africa can be a much developed nation. At the same time, he used sports, sports as a uniting factor between the blacks and the whites. So that is one of the visionary leadership by Mandela. He was not only a great revolutionary who came to power, but once he sits in the seat of power, he was a man who knew how to govern a country and how to solidify and consolidate a country and how to keep the country from burning. So that was one of the visionary leadership lessons that we can learn from Mandela. And same things we can see in Patel. Nehru thought that the civil servants were essentially, were serving the East India Company. So why should he thought that we should dismantle them. But Patel thought that if the civil servants can serve a foreign master so well, the same civil servants can, do wonders for India. So that's why, even though Nehru wanted to dismantle Indian civil service, Patel insisted on keeping it. So that shows the visionary leadership, the intuition and logic of Patel. That was, you can quote as an example. See, if you look at Nehru's decision also, we started our space exploration pretty early, right? That is the reason why we landed on the south pole of the moon. So even though that point of time we are a very poor country and space exploration was not such a fancy thing to do the way it is now, still the visionary leadership of Nehru and Patel both, we had continued our space exploration. That's why we have so much of advantage in this arena now. So these are the visionary leaderships that was not only driven by intuition, but as well as there was degree of logic in it. And if you look at your history books, lot of examples are there where you can find visionary leadership and why they are visionary decisions and why they were great decisions. So multiple examples are there. I gave you couple of decisions. So let's move to the next topic. Topic number 3, not all who wander are lost. This is a pretty easy topic. You can talk about Buddha, you can talk about explorers, navigators, adventurers, okay, innovators from different fields. Okay, they might look as if they are lost, but then again they were not essentially lost because they are wandering, but their wandering has some purpose. Wandering can be of two types. In this you can talk about these two types. Wandering can be without purpose or with purpose. So the person who has a purpose, and that is the reason why he is wandering or venturing into the uncharted territory, they are not lost. If you see, let me give an example, very simple example that you might have read in your school days. Sir Ronald Ross, right? Ronald Ross, who discovered that malaria is happening because of the mosquito bites. Mosquito is the carrier. Okay, when he was trying to roam behind the mosquitoes to find the things and all that, people thought that he was a madman. But eventually he was the person who found out that these are the carriers of this particular disease. So again, he was wandering, but he was not lost because he had a purpose. Similarly, a lot of examples can be quoted here from science, from economy, from politics, from other things. Okay, so religion like Buddha or Jainism, etc. Okay, you can write that. Even historians, in history also we have some great leaders who appear for some period of time, who appear as if they are lost somewhere, are not able to find their foothold, just to come back and regain power. So that has been there in the history. That also you can write. Let's look at topic number 4. Inspiration for creativity springs from effort to look for the magical in the mundane. That means if I decode the whole essay, simply you have to prove how from ordinary things we get the inspiration to create extraordinary things. Just like a bureaucrat, right? An average man doing more than average work, okay, or an ordinary man doing some bit of extraordinary work. In this one, a lot of examples are there. See, since mankind has been on the since the existence of mankind as a species on earth, we have been looking at mother nature. Man has been looking at mother nature to understand and unravel the mysteries of nature, because if you look at nature, nature is the greatest engineer on earth. We are trying to understand the engineering of nature so that we can find solutions to the problem that we face today, whether it is climate change, whether it is sea level rise, lot of things, right? So This is also known as biomimicry. That means we are trying to mimic the mother nature and maybe the species around us, etc. Right? We have been exploring bioluminescence. We have been exploring in energy, solar energy, wind energy, geothermal energy. Okay. So biomimicry has been there. Another example will be, say, artificial intelligence. If you look at the foundation of artificial intelligence, what we are trying to do, we are essentially trying to understand a species that has been created by earth or nature, that is human being, try to understand how his brain works or how his mind works and put that into a machine. So that is again biomimicry kind of thing. So if you look at robotics, okay, they are trying to create robots which can run like a cheetah, which can exhibit the things that a cheetah does, or a dog, or they are trying to build this kind of robotic things as well. So a lot of examples are there. Let me give some other ordinary examples. If you look at the ant, as they are known for two important things. They are always prepared for the disaster. So their disaster preparedness is very high, that we can learn from the ant, and their teamwork is second to none, which we can learn, which can inspire us to be a good at or better at in our teamwork. You can look at honeybee. So many things are there which inspire us. If you look at honeybee, they are known for something called swarm intelligence. Swarm intelligence. So that means they travel in a swarm, that we already know, and they are as a species they are not very selfish. Even if say group of bee will create the honey, it is not only for themselves but for the entire hive. So if you want to know where the Karl Marx communism has been a success, it will be among the honeybees. Okay, they exhibit that that community spirit as well. And that swarm intelligence I told you, this particular knowledge has been used by defense or military technology. For example, they are creating what we call drone swarms. Google it and try to see drone swarms. Okay, so that it can have military application. So these things are there. So these are so that means if you look at nature, it has been inspiring us. It has been inspiring the poets. It has been inspiring the literature. It has been inspiring the Also you can give some more examples. If you look at shape of a bullet train, this is inspired from the shape of a kingfisher bird. Or if you look at all our avionics, aeroplanes, etc., they are inspired from the the way birds work. Okay, we got the inspiration from them. And you can give some other examples. If you see humor or stand-up comedy also, see, they talk about what? The greatest stand-up comedians, they talk about day-to-day work only. In the mundane only they find their creative things. They they make some interesting writings and make people laugh. Similarly, poets or the people, the great writers, okay, they also find inspiration from the mundane things. Okay, the poet might be writing about clouds or mountains, etc. These are mundane things, simple things, but they they write about them and create greatest of the great literature around there. So that is there. And another very interesting thing is, if you suppose you come across a person who is living or is his age or her age is more than 100 years and is very healthy, strong, and is able, that will make you ask the very important question, how this person is is in such good health at this particular age. So if you want to know the secrets to the good health of a 100 plus person with 100 plus as age, then what he or she has done that that made him or gave him such a good health, that essentially will be his daily day-to-day mundane work that he used to do every day. Maybe waking up early, maybe taking his meals at the right time, doing little bit of exercise, that kind of thing. Mundane, ordinary works. But eventually, when you sum it up, it comes out such a great inspiration to everyone. In fact, there are patches of the world which are known as blue zones. Very few patches around the world are there where people are living more than 100 years. And their secret is essentially this. Okay, the daily works that they do, that's how the food they eat, the exercise they do, that's what makes them or ensures that this group of people are living more than 100 years. There are only few patches are there in the world. So that is quite inspiring if you see. Even if you look at a scientist or an innovator, almost every day for a scientist or an innovator is most of the time is a failure. So they keep on trying and trying and trying and going at it again and again and again. So this is a very ordinary day for them until and unless they find out the solution. That becomes an extraordinary day, and that changes the course of mankind. So obviously in the ordinary things most of the time we find the extraordinary, and these are few examples I gave you. You can give example of persons or people, say for example differently abled people, or say what we call Divyanga. They have been able to do so many things, extraordinary things, which is very inspiring. That examples you can give. Okay, so there are a lot of examples are there. You can very well write this essay. Moving on, let's look at the topic. Girls are weighed down by restrictions and boys with demands. This is a very interesting. UPSC has a penchant for pushing our thought boundaries, but this is again a doable topic. Here say there is a very interesting concept in sociology. You don't need to know sociology to write this essay anyway. Role allocation, or the better word will be societal role allocation. Okay. Now, if you look at a woman, she plays a multiple roles in the society. She might be a daughter to someone, she might be a mother to someone, she might be a wife to someone, she might be a homemaker, or she might be a working lady. Sometimes what happens, because the same person is entrusted with so many roles, and society has expectations from every role. In work, the boss or the higher authority expects something from her. Homemaker, if she is a homemaker staying at home, obviously there is some expectations from her. And even if she is working, she has to take care of the home or take care of the kitchen. Okay, so that is there. That is the society expects women to do and puts a lot of restrictions on her. And if she is a wife, some role is there, as a mother, as a daughter, so as a sister also you can write over here. So obviously because a woman plays a multiple roles in society, there arises lot of conflicts among the roles. Same goes for men. Same goes for men, but mostly if you see the major divide between the women and men, for women most of the time while she is playing different roles, we find the society puts a lot of restrictions on her. Okay, whereas when a man is playing different roles, he has to be the provider. See, it's like a society, Indian society expects the woman to, by and large, expects the woman to take care of the kitchen and the man to provide for the household. That is the typical expectations. Just one example of typical expectations from a male or female, right? A man, again, he is a brother or a son, husband, maybe a working professional, etc. So there are multiple roles. That's why over here the restriction is less though, because he is a provider, lot of time it is the demand. The society does not expect wonders from the woman per se. By and large, I am talking from a societal perspective. They don't want their, it's okay if the woman of the house is, excelling in studies or doing great in her, job life or whatever. That's okay. But it is not expected per se. Okay. There is no expectations on her on those grounds. But as a man, you have to excel in your studies or at least find a good job, etc., to provide for the family. So that expectations is there. So that is a demand from the demand of the society from a man. Whereas for a woman, there is a lot of restrictions, and this is a pretty typical, essay. You can give examples how you can diversify the essay when we are talking about society over here. You can talk about, give example of Indian society. You can talk societies in Arab world where there is a lot of restriction on women. That example you can give. Even there are countries where women cannot go out without being accompanied by a male member. So that kind of restriction is there. Okay. So Arab world, and then we can talk about the developed countries. For example, USA, Europe, etc., Australia, Canada, etc. So over there the restriction is different. Okay. So different society, different level of development. Africa, there is other things are there. Africa. Okay. So different society, when you take examples and try, exploring the aspects of the restriction that is put on a woman and the demands that was expected, or that is, the expectations on a man, then you will find that there are some degree of convergence in all the societies that we come across, and there is some degree of divergence. By and large, if you look at the whole world, every society expects the man to be a provider for the family. Okay. Provider of things, security, food, house, etc. So by and large, most of the societies are patriarchal in nature. So yes, that similarity is there. Restrictions, the level of restrictions that a Arab woman faces, that is different in India, different in say developed world. So level of restrictions differ. So that aspect you can explore. So pretty doable topic, pretty easy topic. Okay, moving on. And another thing is, you have to establish why they are harmful, because they stifle the women or men from reaching their true potential. Okay, moving on. This is a question, mathematics is the music of regions. This is a question you should not attend. Why? Because it is kind of too abstract. Nonetheless, still you will be able to attend it. Let me give an example. Say it is a music of regions. That means mathematics as a discipline is all about facts. It's all about quantification, logic, and positivism. These are the typical aspects of mathematics. So if the poets and the writers talked about moon, they romanticized moon, they wrote poems on moon, etc., or different stories on moon. But a mathematician, he calculated that we can land on moon. That's why India landed on moon. See, if you look at the space exploration, it is pure math. If you get the math right, we can go to Mars, we can go to Venus, we can go to moon. If you don't get the math right, we cannot land over there. So obviously our imagination may not have been possible, may not have allowed us to think such a huge possibility, but because there is math, it pursued us that yes, it is possible, because the math says so. So space exploration is all about getting the math right. That example you can give, or what else you can give? Yes, say if you are trying to harness nuclear energy or building an atomic bomb, this is all about math. If you get the math right, Again, obviously, the rest of the things will follow. So, if you look at the mathematicians, they try to find out the equation of nature. They look at different things in nature and they try to find out equations so that they can solve the mysteries of nature. Okay. So, that is what a mathematician is obsessed with. If you look at our information technology world or internet, etc., it runs on 1 and 0. So, yes. But then again, as I told you, it's a very abstract topic, only few examples. Even if you want to write more, you have to sit and devote a lot of time to strategize कि क्या लिखूँगा, ठीक है? So that's why don't attend or attempt this kind of essay. Moving on. This is pretty easy topic. They have been asking this question one way or other. Okay, repeated, often repeated topic. Why? If you look at our preamble, it talks about social justice, economic justice and political justice. Three kinds of justice are there by and large. So obviously the essay is about what? A society that has more justice is a society that needs less charity. Obviously, if there is societal justice, we won't be needing charity a lot. Same goes for economic justice. If everyone is well off, why we will need some kind of charity? If you look at charity, charity can have different connotations. For example, say government is giving subsidized food, that is kind of a charity only, or lot of government schemes are essentially charities only. So when we achieve societal justice, economic justice and political justice, we won't be needing this kind of schemes which are essentially welfareist in nature. They are welfareist in nature because the justice, societal justice or economic justice is not there. That means we are unable to, let me give an example, we are unable to reduce poverty, or we are unable to get or create meaningful employment, alternate employment for our population. That is the reason why we are sending them some kind of say unemployment bhatta or something like that. Okay, we don't want that. What we want is empower the people and employ the people. Once we do that, essentially there will be societal justice, economic justice and political justice. That means there is no discrimination. We won't be needing charity. It might be from an individual, might be from a billionaire, might be from say an organization or from the government itself. Okay. So this should be the ultimate goal of our governance and society. We should not be relying too much on charities. That's what the essay is all about. You can by and large write it. Easy topic. Moving on. Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. The crux of the essay is nothing but value education. Pretty identifiable, easy theme. UPSC has asked this question in different formats over the years. And if you look at the value education, you can talk about Gandhiji. You can talk about Tagore, etc. Gandhiji and his Noitalim idea. Here they are talking about the objective of education. That objective of education is not only to create a skilled man, but also to create a wholesome man. That means it is not about only skill set, but also the education should create a wholesome man. That means value based education also should be part of that, so that that person has a good character and is a good contribution, makes a good contribution to the society and turns out to be a good citizen or individual. Okay. So that is the whole objective. Here you can criticize also that how our education is only creating skilled man and not wholesome man. That you can create or give examples. For example, for a long period of time we thought that if someone is educated, he will never become a terrorist. But we have seen that lot of the time, despite of having highest qualification, the educated ones turn out to be sometimes terrorists. So that is one aspect you can talk about here. That means we are only giving skill based education and there is no value education. That you can talk, or say you can give example of corruption in high places. If that happens, then obviously skill set is there, that's why the man has reached the top, but because there is no value education, he is engrossed in corruption and all. That you can talk about. और यू कैन टॉक अबाउट वाइट कॉलर क्रिमिनल्स, ठीक है, बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल है इंडिया में वाइट कॉलर क्रिमिनल्स. These are group of people who are well educated, okay, well educated, they have highest skill set, etc. However, they are unable to stop, they could not stop themselves from being a thief or a white collar criminal. So a lot of examples are there, okay. बहुत सारे इशू तो है, आपको पता ही है, examples है. So this kind of examples you can give to establish that skill is only one aspect of education. Value or building a wholesome man is another important aspect of education, which as a society, as a nation, we have not given enough importance, okay. Ethics is missing in our school curriculum or pedagogy. This is not only in India, by and large almost all the countries, even in developed world, that ethics based education is missing. So that has to be there. That if you look at education, the goal of education should be what? What we should be teaching our children. Technical skills is required, because that's what will help them find an employment, and through employment they will be able to contribute to the society. We need human skills so that they can operate well within a societal setup. This particular skill set is is very much required, specifically in the age of social media, where we are connected in the virtual world and disconnected in the real world. That is the reality of the times we are living now. Okay, everyone is connected through the internet or social media, disconnected in the real world, in the sense nobody knows what is happening in their neighborhood. So we need human skills. Apart from that, we need what we call moral skills. Then and only then we can build a great society, great nation and great country. So education is essentially whatever we have learned in our, see here also the source of moral education is not only say school. We look beyond school and learn from different parts, but here whatever the school has taught us stays with us for a longer period of time, because those are our formative years. So that's why if the moral education etc. is there, most of the time the individual turns out to be a good individual. If that moral education is lacking, they may or may not turn out to be a good individual. That you can give some examples: corruption in high places, as I told you, white collar criminals etc. and you can write the essay. Easy topic, doable topic. Value based education, इसके ऊपर बहुत बार क्वेश्चन आ चुका है, and it's a pretty well known theme in UPSC. So we are done with 8 topics. See, we are done with the analysis. See, my objective in this video was not to give you say आप इंट्रोडक्शन में क्या लिखोगे, बॉडी में क्या लिखोगे, कंक्लूजन में क्या लिखोगे, what should be the critical aspect and all. It is not an elaborate discussion of strategy. I just gave you some examples and ideas to explore and think. वो कहते हैं ना कि समझदार को इशारा काफ़ी है. So you can explore those threads that I talked in this particular paper. By and large, this is a moderate paper in my opinion. See, whether it is a difficult paper or an easy paper or a moderate paper depends on the knowledge base. For some people it will be extremely difficult, for some it will be an easy paper. And essay is a make or break paper, in the sense if you are getting good marks in essay, you will get a good rank, or it can kick you out of the whole race altogether. And given the philosophical nature of the essay, it is becoming little difficult to write good essays. But this year, if you look at the topics also, at least apart from the mathematics, is music, apart from that topic, rest of the topics are doable topic, and doesn't matter which one you have attended, you will be able to score good, or at least you will be able to get some fair amount of marks from the essay paper. And if you have any questions, or if you have written something and want to know whether you have written the right thing or wrong thing, you can ask me in the comment section and I will try to clarify them, find out the time and clarify them. See, I am a firm believer, if you want to do good in UPSC or civil service or in this essay paper itself, you must do, you should find good quality reading material and start reading. So reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing a exact man. For at least UPSC, two things, reading maketh a full man and writing an exact man. That's what we need. Conference to chhod do. See, if you are a serious aspirant, the knowledge base of any serious aspirant, if you compare, two serious aspirants, their knowledge base is more or less same, because they read same books, they read similar kind of things. So knowledge base is same. The most important aspect is what you do with the knowledge base. How do you apply that content in the real time or in the examination hall? That is what matters. And to do that well, you need practice. Second, whatever you have read, that is not enough. Second is frequency. Frequency of thought. What is the meaning of frequency thought? That means how many times you have read something and then after that you sat down and thought about it. Post reading thinking is very necessary if you want to crack UPSC. Why? Then and only then you will be able to synthesize कि जो मैं पढ़ा हूँ क्या पढ़ा हूँ and what is the crux of it and how do you retain it in retain this particular information or particular bit of knowledge inside you. Okay, so that is post reading thinking, that helps you in synthesis. That is important. Third is, see, because the knowledge base is same, so how do you connect? How do you connect that ये जो ऐसे not only connect but also collect? See, whenever we are presented with a philosophical quote, we go back to our mind, think कि मैं क्या पढ़ा हूँ, and you try to pick out the examples and try to create a framework to write the essay, right? That's how it is. So if you are able to decode the essay properly and connect it with proper examples and diversify the essay and collect means collecting from your from your body of knowledge that is inside you. So once you collect the good number of examples, you will be able to write a good essay. But all this requires what? Practice. Essay has a learning curve. Okay, if you cannot wake up tomorrow and say I will write an exceptional essay, that is true for very few people who are good at writing from the very beginning of their childhood. Okay, that kind of people do exist and they don't need essay practice. But by and large, if you are a engineering background student or science background student, or doesn't matter the background, if you are scared of philosophical essay or how to approach it, then you have to have a lot of writing practice. That is what is required. Anyway, little announcement that our UPSC program will be launching prelims test series, mains test series, SS test series. All of them will be starting around October 1st. This is a tentative date, maybe October, in the first week of October everything will be launched, including mentorship program. So the details, everything else will be given to you in various channels. And thank you. And if you have any questions or if you want to know certain aspects of essay writing, etc., let me know in the comment section. Thank you.